Tennessee, Joe, at 10 here for you. I have them at 9.
I think a lot of people, when we discussed this yesterday, are quick to move on from Tennessee after the loss that they suffered to Georgia.
Yep.
Multi-score loss, which is disappointing. And we talked about on Sunday how their inconsistencies on offense are too frustrating to support them as a legitimate national champion threat. That does not mean that they are not a top 10 team. They have one of the best defenses in the country. And when they have played balanced football on both sides and they've ran the ball well and Nico has played his best football, they are 100% at least a top 8 team. So putting them in the top 10 at 10 for either of us, wherever we had them, is justified. They deserve to get to the playoff with 2 losses. For some reason, you hear some people, Texas fans in particular, it hasn't been pushed a lot, but I've seen some people on Twitter arguing that Arkansas is an impressive win, and then suddenly it's a bad loss for Tennessee when we're having that same conversation. So we need to pick a lane here. I think it's a tough opponent. It's a middle-of-the-pack team in the SEC. They lost to them the way that they did on the road is not particularly unimpressive that a lot of people want to paint it to be.
Last week when they lost, Joe, let's call it what it is. For a half, they were rolling. For the first half, they came out rolling. Nico was doing well. They weren't dropping the ball. It's just that they got blanked in the second half because, I mean, look, man, when you have 4 drops and a half, that's going to kill any offense. Joe, to be real with you, we're not talking about Nico lately, but Nico, from a decision-making standpoint, I feel like has gotten slowly but steady better every single week. In reference to Tennessee, okay, the reason that I have them at 9 and you have them at 10, or at least for me, okay, Joe, they still have a Bama win. They still went up against Georgia and was very competitive with them, even in the second half. I mean, they had a turnover on downs late. If they convert that, they score, who knows? I just still think that they have been very competitive. They play great defense. They run the ball very well. What happens if they start hitting things with their wide receivers and they don't drop the ball? I don't know. Tennessee's a tough program and a tough team that can get after the quarterback. But when I look at Tennessee, Joe, I still think I vastly feel like you're missing a pretty big piece in the passing game. Yeah. And I think that you could be a very complete team if you were better there. Joe, I'm going to be real with you. Of all the teams in here, maybe outside of South Carolina, I could see a path for everybody to the playoff that we have or to a national championship here on our power rankings. I don't see Tennessee as being one, though. If you're going to continue to have struggles and halves the way that you do offensively, if you don't get that fixed, I don't really care, right? Like some of these teams are going to blank you in the second half too, and we'll just have to wait and see. That Bama win's a big one. It's a massive one for them right now. So,
yeah, that's the ones. That's I think honestly their biggest saving grace is the performance that they had against Bama. I mean, that's something that needs to get brought up continuously because, again, Bama is another hot team that people have brought up often throughout this process. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.